Good morning, friends. Before I start, let me submit some of the aspects. What I'm going to share my views, they are personal and they have been shaped by my own deep personal experiences for the last 3 decades or so of my practice as a pediatric cardiac surgeon. And some of the commonest scenarios, what we all experience on day-to-day basis is that we are delivering care for congenital heart diseases in Indian subcontinent in diverse platforms. And there are no organized transportations what we have right now in many of the zones of India. And there is very high rate of sepsis, which is due to gram-negative organisms in this country, which is completely in contrast to MRSA sepsis in the developed nations. And there are subcontinental issues like late presentations and lesser weights for age. And one more aspect to be added is that there is very minimal effort to identify syndromes preoperatively in the surgical units unless we make a conscious effort to identify possible discharges, because this goes a long way in reducing the morbidity and mortality. And these are some of the common images what we see. This is a 64-year-old gentleman with the tetralogy and who has not been operated and who is having completely asymptomatic, symptom-free lifestyle. He's retired from Bihar Electricity Board and he's leading a normal life without any surgery. And I think in all the probability he is survived because we did not do surgery for him. And this is one more, I think most of the programs, pediatric cardiac programs will come across these situations at least once a week. We have got an 18-year-old tetralogy and we have got a 6-month-old tetralogy lying side by side after surgery. And that sort of is representative of the case distribution in our part of the world, wherein we have a backlog of congenital heart diseases coming to us at an older age. And also we have got infants and neonates who are coming very early for surgical correction because of the improved systems. So it's a sort of skewed distribution what we have in terms of case referrals to us. But all in all, we still continue to get a grown-up congenital heart disease who has not been operated earlier, who comes for surgical correction later. And this is a 40-year-old lady with tetralogy and with healed tuberculosis, right mid-zone and right lower zone with scoliosis, and she had a pulmonary artery hypertension and she required total correction with a conduit. And it was maybe about, I think she stayed, if I remember correctly, about 11 to 12 days in the ICU before really getting discharged. And at the same time, having said all these scenarios, India is a free democratic country. We have got systems in private corporate sector. This is my own platform in which I function, and it can match any of the Western operating suits. So we have centers which have got hardly definable resources to do congenital heart surgery, to centers which are having more than plenty to do the congenital heart surgeries in India. No, so this is the reality check. We have got the entire spectrum of platforms to deliver care. Having said that, 3 decades back when I started my own congenital heart surgery experience, that when the journey started, this is my first brush with the reality, and this was my first original article what I published with Dr. K.M. Cherian, and it completely represents his work. And I just happened to be the first author to write that paper. And 60 patients of TAPVC between 87 to 94, whatever he operated, which we published. And that 60 patients, we had 20 deaths in the hospital, accounting for 33% mortality. And it still got published in one of the leading journals of the world at that time, Journal of Cardiovascular Surgery. And the fact was that it was appreciated even by that magnitude of mortality also as one of the important papers which came from India representing that what's going on in the country at that time. 5 years down the line, our premier institute, All India Institute, Ujjwal Chaudhary and Associates, they published this 248 cases of TAPVCs with 45 deaths, accounting for 20% mortality. And this is in actually turn of the century for us. And same time, it gives a message that 5 years down the line, across the country, there were sweeping changes and there were improvements which gradually resulted in reduction of mortalities. And another 5 years down the line, we had our own paper which came from Amrita. Dr. Girish Warrier wrote it. And 27 neonates with TAPVCs we operated with 11%, only 3 deaths, 11% mortality, indicating that our understanding had increased and possibly I think we had contextualized our practices and we sort of understood how to handle these complex heart defects in our setups. But possibly the most seminal contribution from Amrita, which came during that time, as a surgeon, I can tell you was this, that we published this article in 2007 and to identify the determinants of early outcomes after neonatal cardiac surgery from a developing country. And this had very, very important points to be highlighted to the developing world, that how to actually identify the problem and address them, rather than thinking of only about technical aspects of surgery. And it clearly proved that if sepsis can be controlled, mortality can be brought down from 17% to 4% mortality. And that's what we achieved with the infection, simple hand hygiene practices and infection control practices in the ICU and in the theater from the surgeons, anesthetists, and all the caregivers, including nurses. This went a long way in stating that what was obvious was that it was not the artwork or the surgical operative performance. It was a performance collectively by the team in which we were failing the IC practices, infection control practices. But as a collateral from that study, we also identified that all the palliative procedures, regardless of what we did, they carry higher mortality when compared to the corrective procedures, even in Indian subcontinent. Because we shouldn't be under the illusion that let's do palliation and let's get the child out and then we will do the corrective surgery. It's not working. So in that way, I think this paper clearly showed that we need to focus on simple practices which go a long way in reducing the morbidity and mortality, rather than thinking of getting the expensive equipments and contraptions and infrastructure and molecules. We need to concentrate on what is possible by the humans. A couple of years back, Suresh Program from Mumbai published an article in Indian Pediatrics, which again had 200 neonates, and they identified, and to their surprise, possibly I'm sure that they were a little surprised with that, 13.5% mortality for 200 neonates. I admire the honesty of the paper. And this is the actual scenario, what happens in Indian subcontinent, that unmonitored supports, late presentations with shock-like syndromes, or sort of frequently encountered situations in our setups. And that possibly reflected in the outcomes. But having said that, one more important point they highlighted was that the bypass times had to be shortened to reduce the mortality, because they clearly showed in the statistical analysis that if the bypass time were prolonged, maybe because of the technical complexity, but whatever it is, if the bypass times get prolonged, it impacts the outcomes. So we know reducing the bypass time and taking out the infections out of the equation possibly will improve the outcomes tremendously in our setup. But some of the other attributes and qualities one should have as a surgeon, or otherwise one system should have collectively. This was written by good friend KK in an editorial in 2014, telling that a deep-rooted desire to reach out and serve the needs of the average child in the region, and willingness and the courage to emerge from the traps of our conditioning, that we require this, we require this, we require this. We saw this in our overseas center and we require them. No, we do not require them. We need to have courage to accept these are our realities and we are not going to get them, and let's work around them. And that willingness, openness we should have, and we need to have this improvising and innovating and inventing things to suit our socio-economic context is very, very important. It's also important to tailor solutions for our children in our socio-economic milieu. And at the same time, very, very important to focus on quality improvement measures that make a big difference in the outcome. But while highlighting that what exactly is required for good program or to be defined as a good program, KK listed these things based on possibly his experience in Boston. But I feel from a surgical point of view, where I want to introspect and I want to improvise my system, I think high level of skill among caregivers, we need to constantly make efforts to improvise ourselves, and a cohesive teamwork, a supportive administration, a sustainable systems and services, and a sense of ownership to the program for each of the critical player in the program goes a long way in improving the outcomes. Having said that, this is one of the survival versus complexity from Aristotle scoring system I have taken out. And Lacour-Guy had beautifully illustrated that, you want to have good survival for highly complex surgeries, you need to move from simple surgeries and gradually move upwards in terms of complexities. Then only you will get into superior survivals for highly complex lesions, rather than going straight. If a system in our setup attempts to do a complex surgery, which is when the system is young, inexperienced, then chances are very high that the outcomes will not be desirable. So having said that, my take-home message to all of you is that our challenges, they remain unique in India. We need to set realistic and sustainable goals. We need to attempt at all costs, reduce bypass time and clamp time in all surgeries, whatever the surgeries, open heart surgeries we are doing. I think we need to consistently attempt to reduce. And when I was working with Professor Antunes in 15 years back, one important statement he made to me that every bypass surgery or every open heart surgery should be segmented into 3 segments. One, the first segment is the one where from initiating a bypass to giving cardioplasia, the time what is taken in that interval, that needs to come down drastically. Means your attempt always should be go on bypass and do the cardioplasia. And if you do that, then the bypass time automatically comes down. And Suresh program, that study in 2017 clearly showed that we need to reduce the bypass time. We know from European studies, multi-institutional study which came about 10 years back, and which had 14 centers and thousands of units which were operated. They clearly demonstrated a bypass time exceeding 180 minutes in a child who is less than 6 months of age, carries higher risk of losing life. And that was a very important message which comes again and again in all large series of infant heart surgeries, that our bypass time, if we keep on reducing, make conscious effort to do that in our setup, I think it makes a huge difference. Infection control practices go a very, very long way in reducing mortality. There's absolutely no doubt in it. And it's not MRSA we are worried, it is much more dreaded, because gram-negative bugs, once they get into, they alter the hemodynamics for the worse, definitely, uniformly, consistently in all situations, whether it is neonate or adult, it doesn't matter. We end up having deep problems, and then the hospital stay, low-cardiac output, ventilation, everything goes haywire, out of control. And that's the reason it's very crucial to understand that infection should be controlled. And it is possible to produce outcomes with less than 3% mortality if we go realistically with these goals only, rather than attempting highly complex lesions and getting into problem. So with this, I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much.